Hey everyone, today I am so excited because I am with my fellow Philly guy who is a venture capitalist with a ton of energy and doing cool new things all the time and might be just as ADD as me. And just every time I talk to him, he's doing something new and different and cool and building still the other things he had already started. And this past, I guess it was almost 2 years ago now, launched his first book, 6 Degrees of Wayne Kimmel, which we'll talk a lot about how that transpired and what you can learn from it, because he is the master of master networkers. And I know people say that about me, but I think Wayne takes it to a whole different level. And I don't know how he keeps track of it all because he's out way more than I am, constantly making things happen. So welcome, Wayne.
Well, Jen, thanks so much for having me. This is really great. It's so much fun, doing this with you as a friend, as well as just to watch all the success that you've had over the years. I mean, I'm thrilled for you and for all your fans and everyone out there who loves to follow you and all the things you've done. You inspire me, and I hope we help each other we feed off each other's energy, I think, a lot.
Totally, I agree. And by the way, I talked about networking, and what I love is how Wayne just said, we help each other, and that's what the true value of networking is, genuine networking, not like, what can I get, what can I get, what can I get, but what can I give? And it's always an exchange, like, how do I lift you up? How do I make you grow? Because then we all grow together. And you're always so generous with that. And that I'm always grateful for. So before we dive into that side of our conversation, can you give everyone just a little background on how you became this awesome venture capitalist who's involved with so many cool things? So wait till you guys hear like all the amazing companies. You're gonna be like, wait, what? Wait, that one too? Oh my God, I can't believe it. But you just give us a little backstory of like growing up, and were you always so ambitious and always like wanting to do the next big thing, and were you as social as you are today? Well,
look at that. That's a huge question. So, but that we have time, and we'll go through a lot of it. I mean, look at this. I tell you, at 29, I started my first venture capital fund, and it was all about this idea of seeing all these things that were happening in the world. It was 1999, and the internet was just really going wild. It was just the beginning of the internet at that point. I mean, a few years before, but right around 1999, I was 29 years old, and I said, you know what, I want to be a venture capitalist. Now, at the time, I really wasn't even sure what that was, but I started to say that, I want to be in this business where I can go and help entrepreneurs be successful. And I felt like I had the at least an idea of how to go do that. I didn't really know what I was doing yet, but at the time I went for it. And I think that's one of the things we talk about a lot, Jen, is it's all about just going for it and getting up off the couch and going and try to make it happen. Yeah. And I really, at 29, I probably had no right to be in the venture capital business. But you know what? I said I was going to do it, and I just went and did it. And I went out and raised $20 million to invest in startup internet companies. And fortunately, I was really lucky to have found some really great entrepreneurs that I had the honor to invest in, invested with them, worked really hard, and built some great companies. Some companies like, right from the very beginning, when there was no such thing as online food ordering, we started Seamless Web, which is now public as Grubhub, and it's a $2 billion company today. Mm-hmm. We were investors in the Take Care Health Centers, the clinics inside of pharmacies where you can walk into a Walgreens today and get checked out by a nurse practitioner and then get your prescription right next door. There was no such thing as minute clinics or healthcare clinics inside of pharmacies before then. We were involved with companies like Nutrisystem, and that was an incredible run with an incredible team of people.
The top market picks for a while, right?
It was the top stock in America for 5 consecutive years, and it's doing it again. And that team is doing an amazing job right now, and it's rolling again. And it's exciting to be part of companies where you have incredible entrepreneurs who are trying to do big things. And I'll tell you, it all comes back to the overall philosophy that we have at my venture capital fund called 76 Capital. And our philosophy is all about working with smart and nice entrepreneurs who want to change the world, period.
So I'm going to stop you there for a second, because I know a lot of people watching are entrepreneurs, and they are they want to raise capital, and they've heard about raising capital, and they are scared to death going into these pitch meetings. And you just made it sound so easy because you're nice people. So what can you say as advice to people who are preparing to go do a pitch round, and they're scared to death? Now, I always say, if you're scared and you're acting from fear, you're not going to be yourself, which is totally going to cut you out of the game to begin with. But you're on that side of deciding who's getting money. So what advice can you give them?
Well, I think it's a great question. It's a great question because pitching someone to raise capital or trying to go meet somebody, you've got to find, I believe, some kind of a personal connection. And what's so amazing today is that with Facebook and being able to search people on Google and going on LinkedIn and using Snapchat or whether it's Instagram, you can find out a lot of things about the person that you're meeting with. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that prior to going into that meeting with whoever you're meeting with, whether you're trying to sell something, you're going to raise capital, that you can find a personal connection with that person. Mm-hmm. And I bet by just going out there and searching on the internet and using all the different social networks, you can find that personal connection. Mm-hmm. And that will really change the game. Because right up front, if you're able to say, hey, we both went to the University of Maryland together, or wait, we both know, each other's, siblings from high school, or, I know, your mom knows my mom. Right. Like that kind of personal connection, if you can figure that out right up front, totally changes the conversation and sets everyone at ease.
It's even like, hey, I heard you just had a baby and I have a 1-year-old. I mean, it doesn't even have to be as close connected as, the University of Maryland or with people in common. It's just a common ground that I get where you're at in some aspects of your life. And one of the things that you do for sure that I would imagine you would give advice on is the energy that you come into the room with, to be an infectious kind of person.
Well, I think it's hugely important. I mean, look, as we say, we want to invest in smart and nice entrepreneurs who want to change the world. Well, you can't change the world. You can't be someone if you don't have that energy. You don't have that drive, that passion, that desire to go make things happen. That's so huge. And at the same time, you also sort of need to be buttoned up and all and organized and prepared. And it's something that I always say, one of my business partners at 76 Capital is Ryan Howard. And Ryan is a professional baseball player, played with the Phillies, was a World Series champion here in 2008 with the Phillies. And, so beloved throughout the Philadelphia region. And many, quite frankly, all around the world. People love Ryan. He's a hell of a person as well as a baseball player. But one of the things he always says is, I would never walk onto the baseball field without my shirt tucked in, without my shoes shined, without, a clean, everything was clean and your hat was facing the right way. That's the same kind of thing you need to do as you walk in to go to a sales meeting or to a pitch meeting. You wouldn't present a business plan that wasn't buttoned up. You don't want to walk in all disheveled. You don't want to walk in tired. You don't want to walk in, totally like laid back. Like if I was having this conversation with you and I was like this, come on, let's go. But you have to be ready. You have to be ready for these meetings, and you have to be prepared, and you have to be buttoned up as if you're walking onto that field in the major leagues. You're going to walk out and play first base for the Philadelphia Phillies. You got to look good,
right? Well, you say you invest in nice people, right? That's important to you because you are. And in my world, when I'm going to a retailer and I'm meeting with buyers, I swear they are all trained to not be nice. Like they're just repeating what the person before them did and the person before them did. And I'm not saying all buyers are that way, but in the beginning of my career, I would walk in and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so afraid. Why does everyone look so mean? Why does everyone look angry? And it was kind of this look of like, you're wasting my time. Hurry it up. I got things to do. And I remember going in and being like, oh my God. And my entire energy would change. I would become defeated before I even started. And then I realized, like, this has nothing to do with me. That's just where they're at. So if I could go into the room and change the energy in the room before I say anything about my product, I probably have a better chance of selling my product. And it worked, Wayne. Every single time after that, I would walk in so confident, because no longer did I make it about me. Like, they don't like me, or, you know, I'm not smart enough, or my product's not good enough. All of a sudden I was like, they're just unhappy because they were, you know, trained to be that way, or they're just rushing me because they were trained to be that way. And I would walk in and I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's so nice outside. You guys get outside today? And I'd be all energized, and they'd be like, at first I could see people's faces like, is this girl on something? Like, she's so energized. And by the end, they'd be like, hey, if you're staying in town, let's grab a beer tonight. And I realized that when someone's going into these kind of meetings, like, you're so nice and energized, and Ryan is, but maybe they're not all that way. So someone going into that space has to kind of remember, they still have to give money away. They're still looking for the investment, right? They still need to allocate that fund. So if you're going in knowing that, you're going to be less afraid.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think that, you know, I tell, you know, entrepreneurs, tell people all the time, you know, and I talk about this in my book, as we're, you know, I'm sure at some point we'll talk about, you know, in my book, and it's called 6 Degrees in Wayne Kimmel, and it's all about networking and entrepreneurship and giving back. And I always say, like, you have to think like an entrepreneur, right? It's so important to think like an entrepreneur, master networking, right? Be able to do what you're talking about. Go in and, like, meet someone for the first time as a contact, but then walk out maybe, and that person becomes more than a contact, becomes someone who you have a relationship with. And then the most important piece of it is to always give back and try to help that other person. So when you're going into those meetings, most people go in with their hand out. Give me something, right? I want something.
Yeah.
But if you can actually walk into those meetings and be able to give something or help that person in some other way, that's where the whole game changes. Because if you're walking into that buyer, you're expecting for them to give you money. You're walking into that investor meeting and you want that money so badly. But if you're able to go into that meeting and say, you know what, I can help you, because I know that I know you really care about curing cancer, and I want, and I raise money for that, or I know some people who are doing research around that, or I know, whatever it is, if you can come up with something to really connect with that other person, it completely changes the game.
Agreed, completely. You know, I have a great story on that. My good friend Tamsin Fidel, who is a very successful news anchor, was originally in Philly, now in New York. We became friends socially. And one thing that I learned in the media was that every producer needs content. They might not need your content in that moment, but they need content. So if they don't need your content, give them access to content that's going to make their life easier. And so basically, every day I would see Tamsin, I'd see people pitching her. And I would never pitch her, but I would try and figure out what she was looking for. So she had this Women Entrepreneur series. And so I'd be like, hey, Tamsin, I have this awesome entrepreneur who's doing this, and I have this other one who's doing that. If you want the intro, I'll make the intro. And she looks at me one day and she's like, we've been friends for like a year, and you've never pitched me ever. And I was like, because you know who I am and you know what I do. And I figured when you needed me, you know where I'm at. And she was like, for that reason, you're allowed to pitch me whenever you want. Please pitch me whenever you want. And it was such a moment that really validated that theory of, like, give value. If you can give value first, then you build that trust. And then that person wants to do anything. So before we go on to the next topic, Scott Kelly says, would love to have Wayne at my pitch events in San Francisco and Orange County in November. It's called VCFastpitch.com. So how can Scott reach out to you after this?
Scott, reach out to me. I'm at Wayne Kimmel all across the internet, so you can find me in all different ways. So it's kind of pretty easy. Wayne at 76 Capital is my email address. Please reach out, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Hopefully,
awesome.
I'll be out there.
That's why I love live. This doesn't happen in television this way. Like, doing lives is such a game changer. After doing television for so many years, this is what makes it exciting, because we get to engage with everyone. Like my friend Shelly, who just said hi, who's transitioning right now from a model to more of an entrepreneur. Not that models aren't entrepreneurs, but changing that whole mindset of, like, building a brand, which leads us to my next topic.
Sure.
So you mentioned Ryan Howard is one of your business partners. Whistle Sports, which is number 3 right now. in media distribution around sports. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's between 1, 2, or 3, depending on all the, ESPN, Turner, we're all in that mix. So these guys are doing great.
But that's the best part of the story. Those of you who don't know what Whistle Sports is, check it out because it's such a cool story, because basically it just started a few years ago, and you just heard who the top contenders with them are. Like, they're next to ESPN in most of these things. And they basically started it as a platform, creating interesting sports content, doing some really funny things. And now they're one of the major sports content providers. And I feel like it was just yesterday when it started. Was it 3-4 years ago, or am I like crazy?
No, you're right on. And now, we're on Facebook Live, but you can also go over to Facebook Watch and watch some of our shows. And some of our shows are now on Facebook, and it's pretty amazing. And we, with every day, we have billions of viewers who have seen our shows and our content, and it's exciting to be involved with those guys. I mean, the entrepreneurs who started the company, I'm so proud of what they've been able to do. They certainly exemplify everything that we're all about here at 76 Capital. They're smart, they're nice, and they're game changers. I mean, and that's what's amazing, and that's what it's great to work with them.
It has been so fun for me to watch the evolution, because it and this is going to deter for 1 second where I was going with entrepreneurs and athletes, but it really goes to show you that your belief system is everything. Because most people would have thought, how would we ever be this little startup company and compete with ESPN? They have billions of dollars, they have access to everything. And they didn't allow that belief system to be part of their equation. They were like, why can't we? Why wouldn't we? And they did. And if you don't have that mindset out of the gate, then you can't accomplish that. And I've never met them. I just know, based on human potential and human psychology, that there's no way in their mind that they could be where they are right now if they had had that mindset. So can you give me just a quick little insight on maybe some of the mental profiling that you witnessed from them in order to be here?
Well, I think it's something the team at Whistle Sports, it's the team at Indiegogo is another great example. The team, we talked about Seamless and Take Care and Nutrisystem and, Startup Health. I mean, amazing stories of amazing entrepreneurs who were doing things that many people said they were crazy doing this. Like, they were the crazy ones. They're the ones, just like, today's a perfect day to talk about this. I mean, it's the launch of it's almost a little after the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone, and the new iPhone comes out today. But you think about, and you think about back to Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs, when he came back as CEO for the second time of Apple, and that they basically came out with that,
Speaking of iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. The thing, right? Exactly. I thought I turned all this stuff off, but I think
it's funny.
It's amazing, right? Because one of the things that Steve, came at when he said back then was, it's like this incredible, when they had that campaign about the crazy ones when he came back as CEO, and this was back in 1997. He's like, while some of them see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And to me, that gives me chills almost every single time I hear it, I read it, I say it, I think about it, because to really, truly be an innovator, to be an entrepreneur, to be someone who's going to create this incredible change, you've got to do things that other people think are crazy. You've got to do things that are completely out there, that are like way past anyone could ever even imagine. I mean, think about it. Think 10 years ago, before we had an iPhone, I can't even remember what that world was even like. But now everyone has these incredible smartphones in their pockets, in their pocketbooks, in their phone. It's unbelievable what's happened. And to me, as an investor, as a venture capitalist, what makes me so excited and why I get so worked up is that what will happen over the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. Today's iPhone is unbelievable, but just think about the iPhone in 10 years, or the i whatever it is, or the whatever it is. And by the way, it's probably not going to be an i. It's going to be something else. There's probably some girl today, she's probably like 16, 17 in high school, okay? And she's developing the next communication device that will be implanted in our ear, our underarm, our something. I mean, who knows, right? But it will just it automatically, like, screens will appear all over it. We talk about AR and VR and all the things that are happening today, but these things will just appear and it'll be incredible. So
VR is going to be such a game changer. You know, you and I have been entrepreneurs for a long time. I just hit on something. 10 years ago when Steve Jobs and this whole statement was made, the world of entrepreneurship was very, very, very different than it is today. And I always start by a lot of my speaking engagements by telling people I've been an entrepreneur since 1995, way before it was cool. And now it's cool. And my children's generations growing up watching something completely different. There's more 14-year-old millionaires than have ever been before. That's right. Yep, I said 14-year-old millionaires. But I feel with the creation of Jumpstart Connect, right? Like, talk about dreamers. What if there's a store and it curates all the business services that someone needs under one roof? So someone who has a business can just speed shop and speed date for everything that they need in order to get to the next level, no matter what level you're at. And so in my creation of Jumpstart Connect, I realized we've come so far, and we usually are surrounding ourselves by entrepreneurs most of the time. And sometimes when you step outside of this world, you realize we've come so far in this entrepreneurial movement, and entrepreneurs change the game. They create jobs. There is not one job in this entire world that exists without an entrepreneur having created the opportunity for it. And we create the innovation and also change societal beliefs that are holding us back. And I realize that there still needs to be this next awareness of why we need to support entrepreneurs and how we need to do it. So I started this movement, I don't even know if you saw it yet, called Empower Entrepreneurs. So it's hashtag Empower Entrepreneurs. And the mission is really, number one, to raise awareness of how critical entrepreneurs are to our society, how much it accelerates the economy and innovation. And if that so is the truth, then how important is it for communities to support and uplift, not bash and try and hold back, because that's the limited belief that sometimes happens. Usually it's your immediate family and people you went to like high school with. and then also how important it is for large corporations to realize the power of the entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial community to cohesively work together to create something even greater. And often these bigger companies are like slow-moving ships who can't get out of their way. So you've seen it. Some of your companies have been bought by these bigger companies trying to bring innovation into their space. So for an entrepreneur who is thinking, well, I have this little idea, and I think vision is such an incredible part of success, to have that vision of, like, for me with the Butler bag, I want to license this to some big company, and then along comes Avon, and at that point was a $15 billion company licensing my product. So just give people one cool story that you have of one of your little companies that all of a sudden gets bought by a big company or aligns with, I guess Seamless would be part of that story, right?
Yes, I mean, Seamless is a great story. I mean, it was these two, young entrepreneurs who had this idea to allow people to order food online. And this is back in 2000, right? I mean, it was an amazing story, and they just had this idea and they went out and did it. And I can't tell you how many people, and you said it earlier. I mean, I can't tell you how many friends, their moms, their dads, their closest, friends were saying, "What are you doing? You're leaving the law practice to go and start some crazy company to allow people to order food online. Why do you need to order food online? You could just fax it in or call it in. What are you talking about?" Right? I mean, now people, I tell that story to young people and they don't even know what I'm talking about when I say fax.
Fax?
Right. So it's amazing what happened, and we built that company, and and then when Aramark came around and said, they bought that business from us, and then it's just an amazing story. For
those who don't know, because Aramark is headquartered in Philadelphia, for those who don't know what Aramark is, it's probably the largest food supplier, kind of, it's way bigger than a supplier, but this whole food world conglomerate that supplies probably food that you're eating every day, or supports the supply chain of that. But going back to belief systems real fast, if they had thought, why would you need online ordering? Because every place has their own takeout already, right? They would have talked themselves out of it. And then they wouldn't have built this company that got bought by this large conglomerate company. Did they go on? I know some of the team did, but did they go on and start something else since then?
A number of the team members have gone on and done some incredible things, whether it's investing or starting other companies, and just really proud of what they did. I mean, again, they had the vision. They could see the future, and they drove to it every single day, and they worked so hard. And by the way, being an entrepreneur, as you know, is so hard. It's so hard. You'll get knocked down. You'll basically get punched in the face. You'll get, you'll get stepped on. It's hard. It's hard. People will say things about you. Don't do it. What are you doing? They made it, and that's the nice things they'll say to you. I mean, some people just say you're completely out of your mind. So it's hard, and you got to really move forward, and you got to have that incredible resiliency. And that's one of the things, quite frankly, why I like to analogize entrepreneurship to being a world-class athlete. Because I think it's really important. It's very, it's very, very important to have that kind of resiliency. I mean, just like if you're a football player. I mean, yes, last night is a great example. You see some of these football players on Monday Night Football just getting completely knocked out. But what do? They get back up and they get back on their feet and they play the next play. And that's the same thing you need to do as an entrepreneur. You will have meetings where people will say, that is the dumbest idea I ever heard of. And you may hear that day after day after day. And then all of a sudden, you meet that one customer, you meet that one investor, you meet that one person that says, you know what? Hey, Jen, I like that. That's good. I mean, that's what it's all about. But then when you get that yes, it's the greatest thing in the world. It feels so good. And you're like, I knew I was going in the right direction. And by the way, I also have to say, like, just because people don't like your idea, just because a venture capitalist doesn't invest in you, doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just made mean that there wasn't a connection there. And I think you have to think about it that way. A lot of times, people will say, to us, why didn't you invest with us? And many times it was because I didn't really believe I could help you. It wasn't in my wheelhouse. If someone comes to me with some biotech company with genes and all this other stuff, not the jeans that I'm wearing, but you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, but that's where, God, that doesn't mean that, because I don't understand that stuff. That's not what I do. What we do at 76 Capital is invest in consumer-facing companies, consumer-facing technology companies in 3 areas: in sports, in health and wellness, and in the future of retail. That's what we're all about. Those are things that I know. That's what my partners know. And that's where you have to have that connection. That's why we were talking about earlier. You have to know who you're speaking to. You have to know who your audience is. You have to know, you can't just walk into a room and pitch blindly with your eyes closed. Look at the person and who's across from you. See what they respond to. See what they like. By the way, research. Do research. It's so important. It's so important to know who you're speaking to. And then, as we talk about all the time, you got to listen to what they're saying.
Yep. And but you don't need to necessarily make it personal. I would take feedback. When I was pitching the Butler Bag Company, I would take feedback, and every company since, and say, is there some truth to that? Is there something that I could reflect upon about that to tweak my pitch next time, to tweak my product? I mean, just today, as I was writing this pitch for the next Jumpstart store in New York, I tweaked it. It was like, why didn't I say this before? Like, it was like, it just came out so perfectly. And then I was like, wait, but it's that maturation, that pitching sometimes it's an exercise to just get better at what you're doing. But one of the things is when you said a lot of people might just, tell you you're crazy. And I started to say to people, okay, but I choose not to let anyone else's limited beliefs become my own. And so basically, that's your limited belief. It's not mine. My favorite's like, that's just not the way it's done. Well, according to who? And when did we review this? But a story along that line is sometimes it's not the right timing, too. And maybe inventors, innovators are ahead of their curve, which usually happens. I learned I'm usually 7 years ahead of my curve. So when I get an idea, I wait a few years before I actually start it. But when I launched the Leader Girls, and I was at one of the major retailers, and the CMO of the company said, so Leader Girls, just for those who are listening who don't understand, it's a brand, a lifestyle brand for young girls that teaches young girls empowerment through play. They weren't dolls, but this man sitting across from me assumed that they were dolls. And he said, honey, girls don't like to play with ugly dolls. And I was like, wait, what? I didn't say that they were dolls. And I didn't say that they were ugly. And he goes, well, it was inferred. And I said, no. I said they were leaders. And I have a lot of hot friends that are leaders. And he was like, yeah, well, that's not going to sell right now. And basically I learned I was ahead of my time, because 7 years later, so I still brought Leader Girls to market, but 7 years later is on the front cover, and this was 2 or 3 years ago, on the front cover of Wall Street Journal, entrepreneurial dolls are the it thing of the toy industry. And I was like, I created that space. I created it. So before we go on to the topic I wanted to talk about with the athletes, because you made this great comparison, my friend Martha just said she's excited that we're talking about this right now because she's going through entrepreneur burnout as we speak. And Taylor Campitelli, who we both know, said that she's loving the dialogue, that it's extremely inspiring. And my friend Lisa said that she feels that entrepreneurship is so hard, but most rewarding at the same exact time, which I think most entrepreneurs would say. Maybe not necessarily so excitedly on a burnout day. So we'll get you back, Martha, back on track. So you made an analogy of athletes and entrepreneurs are kind of similar, because we have to condition ourselves for success. We need resiliency, we need agility, we need stamina. You work with a lot of athletes, and one of the cool things that you're working on right now that I love, because I do some similar things in the same space, and I'm glad that you're doing even more, because I'm totally gonna jump on your bandwagon, is really getting athletes to think like entrepreneurs. And I'm gonna give you the floor in 1 second, but I have believed this to be needed for so long because they are their own brand. And I think the old agency mindset would intentionally hold them back from thinking that way, so that they became reliant on them versus thinking of, I'm brand, and thinking about how to be that brand and sell their brand while they're relevant on the field and court, and leverage their brand recognition while they're in the game. So you guys are doing a lot in this space now. So give us some insight that you're allowed to.
Yeah, well, you know, I completely agree with you, Jen, and it's really it's an exciting time, because this time I think you're right on. This is not 7 years early. You're right on, and this is a time when truly athletes look at themselves as entrepreneurs. Athletes look at themselves as entrepreneurs. They look at themselves as investors today. And by the way, the entrepreneurs look to the athletes for inspiration as well. So There's this amazing time right now. It's almost like an incredible conversion, or just when these things are really coming together just at the right time, where you have these athletes who, again, who are conditioned, who have the drive, the desire, the passion to go play at the highest of levels on the field or on the court. But they recognize that those same qualities are the qualities that you need to have as an entrepreneur to be successful. Mm-hmm. So, you know, one of the things that we've done is not only did we here at 76 Capital bring Ryan Howard on as our partner, who is an incredible baseball player. I mean, again, World Series champion for the Phillies, MVP, incredible home run hitter, incredible person. But Ryan and I and our other partner, John Powell, we've also partnered with a group of talented professionals in New York City at a firm called Rubicon Talent, where we are doing the next generation talent agency that you were just referring to. So we not only represent athletes, professional athletes, Olympic athletes, and sports broadcasters, as well as some chefs, and we can talk about that as well. But we work with them and we do their marketing deals, we do their endorsements, but we also talk with them and work with them on the business side. And so what does that mean? How can these athletes get involved in businesses as entrepreneurs themselves, as investors, as endorsement, and help them with endorsements too? So some of our athletes that we work with, and it's an exciting group. We have over 40 athletes that we have on our roster. We work with Greg Olson from the Carolina Panthers, Emmanuel Sanders from the Denver Broncos. We work with Cal Ripken Jr. He's the retired incredible Hall of Fame baseball player. We work with incredible players from incredible Olympians like Kerry Walsh Jennings. I mean, she's an incredibly inspiring person who's now does a lot of work with Lululemon, but she's also a mom. She's an entrepreneur. She's unbelievable. We work with Lolo Jones, and Lolo Jones not only just, she's a sprinter, she's on the bobsled team. I mean, she's an incredible Olympian, but we also work with a lot of professional, with broadcasters as well. So some of the top broadcasters you could ever imagine, from all, who basically, if you watch any major sporting event, we have some of those as our clients, and we work with them on the business side. And because what they want and what we believe that they can do and help, and you talked about their brand and their social capital that they have, can really help businesses. And they want to help businesses, and they recognize that they can do it while they're playing to some extent, but also have a long life to live after the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And they all have as you mentioned, what it takes: the stamina, the tenacity, the cachet, the expertise in some arena. They just might not have yet learned the techniques of what they need to do to package it off the field or off the court. And I think it's amazing. I've been seeing you post about Rubicon a lot, so I'm glad you've just kind of given us a little bit more insight, because that's been my vision for a very long time around entrepreneurs who are experts, who are the motivational speakers, who are really positioned in a 360-degree business model that old agencies, talent agents, would have no idea what to do with. I was at William Morris, and they'd be like, "We don't know what to do with you. Like, you're too all over." And I'm like, "No, you just want to just make me go in one box, and I'm not going in the one box. I want to go in all these boxes." So it's exciting, and it's going to open so many opportunities for so many people. Just real fast, Susan had asked, she said she had a bunch of ideas and didn't know the product ideas and didn't know how to get them to the next phase. And I just want to let you know, there's an organization, called WeKnowBusiness.org, and my friend Jim DeBetta owns it, and they can help you get from literally like drawing on a napkin into prototype to the factory. And it's the business model is awesome because it's meant for entrepreneurs, and it's extremely affordable. And then also, Taylor said she wishes that we'd have this conversation every morning because she's so fired up that she would need coffee. So let's move on to your book, because I remember when you were just kind of starting to get it together and write it, and it was a new space for you. And we had lunch and we talked about it, and I know that you're like me in the sense of if we're not out of our comfort zone, we're completely bored. So we need to be out of our comfort zone. So this was kind of new for you. So give me and everyone listening this seasoned venture capital has accomplished all these things and done all these incredible experiences and witnessed massive growth. This venture, it was a little bit different for you. So give us the inspiration, and then maybe one or two of you are like, "Oh gosh, what do I do next?" kind of moments because a couple people on here are aspiring published authors or are newly about to be published authors.
So you're making me blush here. I mean, seriously, being in the venture capital business, what we're all about is working with entrepreneurs and helping them be successful. And this was a venture in writing my book, 6 Degrees of Wayne Kimmel, was about not only about me, but it was also about how I could help others. And that was what was really important for me, and the reason why I did this. I've been going out and speaking for many, many years on, going out and thinking like an entrepreneur making sure that, go out and master networking, and then making sure that you give back and help others. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take all these things and I'm going to put this together, and I'm going to share some tips and tricks and strategies to help others be successful in life and in business. So I put this together, and I think one of the things that we do is there's some sort of practical tips that I think that I have in my book that most people just don't really think about. I mean, most people, say, go out and network. Go network. Well, where do you go? What do you say? What do you wear? I mean, like there are like really basic questions that most people just don't know what to do. I mean, you show up at a networking event, there's 100 people in the room, and they're all really important people. Well, what do? Do you just walk up to them and say, hi, how you doing? And like, how do you actually engage? And so I share some tips, just some simple things. Like, I tell people every single morning I wake up. Your friend said she wanted to have this conversation every morning. Well, here's something that she could do every single morning to get her going. I say, right after you get dressed, my next thing I do is I take a stack of business cards and I fill up my right pocket and I keep my left pocket empty. And my goal every single day is to empty my right pocket and fill up my left pocket with new people's business cards, make these new contacts of people that I've never met before. And then take those contacts. The next step is take those contacts, take those cards, and then develop a relationship with those people. Mm-hmm. So when you're at a networking event, it's not about just, you walk up to somebody and you say to them, all you have to say is like, hi, I'm Wayne, here's my card. Can I have one of your cards? And as soon as you get that card back, you win. You're a winner. Like you're doing great because you gave out one and you filled up your other pocket. I mean, you're not trying to like say, hey, Jen, you want to go out on a date? I mean, like you don't have to, it's not that kind of like crazy sort of a situation. It's like all you're trying to do is just say, I want to get someone's contact information, because once you get their name and their information, as we talked about earlier, you can go online and learn a lot about them and then try to figure out how to engage, how to develop a relationship, or maybe quite frankly, how you can help them in some way.
Always, right. Yeah. Like, don't send an email to the next day, great meeting you, here's my sales deck. Probably not the best idea.
That's exactly right. No, it's like, it's great meeting, definitely send that email. It was great meeting you. I look forward to finding ways to working together in the future. Something like that, which is so much better. So much better. And then also maybe saying like, oh, I noticed that, again, as we talked about earlier, we went to the same school. We like the same thing. I see you like this sports team, and I see you like this TV show. So do I. And you're able to find that information on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Snap. I mean, wherever it is, you'll see those things. Dogs, women, people, pets, so.
I lost your volume for a second, but you're back. It's all good. One other thing I want to talk about that you talked about it earlier about adding value to someone else's life, but something that you walk the walk of very firmly, and something that I think is really important for entrepreneurs to understand. We use an example of networking, like you don't just take, you give, but you believe so much in being a philanthropic entrepreneur. And so some entrepreneurs might be like, oh my gosh, well, Wayne, I'm just starting out, but I don't really have anything to give, because they're thinking just money, right? But assets and giving come in so many other forms. So give us your philosophy a little bit about why you're really so convicted in being such a giver and so philanthropic, and how it leads to more happiness and success.
Well, I think it's one of the most important things. I mean, to be able to give back and help others. I mean, why are we here? I mean, quite frankly, why are we all here on this earth? I mean, it's to make this place a better place for the next generation. It's to make this world a better place for our kids and for our kids' kids. That's what we're really here for. When we create these amazing new innovations or work with these entrepreneurs to do these amazing new things, or we come up with new ideas, it's about to make this world a better place. But at the same time, how can we help others? I think that's the question you have to really think about. We talked about earlier about making, going into people's, when you're meeting with somebody, thinking about how can you help them. And I think that's something that I learned growing up. I was very fortunate, to have parents that ingrained that in me, from the very beginning. I think that's something that's important, but also at the same time, it's something that I believe I want to teach my kids, and my wife and I want to make sure that our kids have those same types of values, to really want to change the world, to make this world a better place, help other people. And that's what's so awesome being a venture capitalist, because we're working with entrepreneurs to help them every day. But it's also not just about the venture capitalists. It's not just about them. It's about this idea of that I tell you, I say all the time, I'm sure you've heard me say this, no matter how badly your day is, no matter how terrible things are going in your life, there is definitely someone else out there who's having a worse day.
Of course.
You can make their day better.
Yeah.
And that's your responsibility to do that on a daily basis.
That's even just a smile. That's literally just smiling at somebody. I mean, I walk down the streets of Philadelphia and New York City all the time, and you just see unhappiness, and then you smile at someone. At first, they're looking like, are you smiling at me? Because they're not used to people doing it, and it really can change their entire physiology by just feeling like, a homeless woman came up to me the other day, and she asked me for money. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash on me. And she said, thank you for just responding to me and acknowledging that I'm a human being. And I was like, wow. She was like, no one even acknowledges me. It's like I'm invisible. And it made me realize, like, me just saying no, even though she probably didn't want to hear no, for her was just made her feel better than just ignoring her, which was eye-opening for me that day. So I've never asked you this, and I'm going to put you on the spot right now. You don't have to go into too many details, but I'm so curious, and I'm sure everyone that's been listening to this whole thing is. Are you nervous? Are you nervous? So, how did Ryan Howard become involved in 76 Capital? Did he want to be a venture capitalist, or did you show him why it'd be cool to be a venture capitalist?
Well, I'm not nervous from that question. It's a great question, and what's really great is, and it really ties back to what we were talking about earlier. I mean, there's an incredible movement that's occurring right now where athletes truly want to be investors. And Ryan and some of his close friends, some of which play on that incredible 2008 World Series team that the Philadelphia Phillies, when they won the World Series, and those guys, said, like, we want to figure out a way so that someday we could go from being just players, but to someday become owners.
Yeah.
How do we go from just being a player? Now, just is a relative term. I mean, a lot of these athletes make some significant money, but at the same time, they're looking at that and saying, how can we go out and pay players? I mean, some of these players are making hundreds of millions of dollars, right? You have to be extremely successful in life and in business to be able to be able to do that. But that's what he really wanted to go do. And he wanted to find the right company, the right platform for him to go and partner with some people that were also in the business, that were also interested in doing something really big. And something really big to make a lot of money, but something really big in the world to also make this world a better place. And so we found each other, through mutual, friends, and we spent a lot of time together before we became partners. We had a lot of meetings that, I couldn't tell my friends. I couldn't, but I used to joke with my kids. I'm like, you can't tell your friends, that Ryan Howard's at our house, right? Like we're getting to know each other. We got to know each other's kids. We got to know each other's spouses. We spent a lot of time together, and we developed a relationship. And this is really what this whole conversation, I think, is all about, and what my book's all about. It's all about building relationships and working with people who are nice, that are the right kinds of people, that have the vision, that have the passion, that have this incredible philosophy, who want to make the world a better place. And that's what really connected the two of us.
Well, I am sure glad that I developed a relationship with you about 10 years ago. And you've been an amazing, supportive friend ever since. And I'm so grateful for that. And I am so grateful for your time. because you've given me almost a whole hour, and I know that your time is very valuable, and I know that it benefited everyone here listening. And everyone get the book, 6 Degrees of Wayne Kimmel. I know Lisa already said she cannot wait to read it. I know when you came to the Jumpstart store in Philly and spoke, there was a gush of a line of people after you spoke, and you brought your energy and everyone wanting it, and have gotten incredible feedback. I loved it. I got a galley copy, which I was excited about. So thank you again. And people who want to reach out to Wayne, he's very active on social media at Wayne Kimmel, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you're pretty responsive. You're pretty on top of your social media, and it's usually like within good timing. So if you have any questions or you want to figure out, you know, what the next big thing is for Wayne, you keep following him along and you'll see lots of good stuff. Thanks so much, Wayne.
Yeah, Jen, again, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. This whole book tour has been incredible. 16 different cities around the country. I'll be in Kansas City next on Monday after the Eagles game. And it's really fun. You know, it's been fun. It's been rewarding to meet incredible entrepreneurs and people and talk with people like you, even though, yes, we've known each other a long time, but my God, this has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
Thanks, absolutely. And hey, if he's on tour, you guys should get him booked in your city, because if he's mobile, you might as well book him while you can. So you might want a couple people reaching out to you about that. So thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Wayne, and have a great afternoon. Bye.